Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. Today is going to be a fun, educational episode that I'm really looking forward to learning more about. Today we have Jessica Klatt, founder of B Industries. Jessica is a mentor, a consultant, and a coach specializing in human wiring. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Brad. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you back on and learn more about all the things that you do, the assessments that you offer, and you and I had a chance to uh, uh, have a long conversation about it about a year ago, where I learned a lot. It was so fascinating, and so just really looking forward to getting a little deeper into the weeds with that today. But so from the why don't you tell us a little bit about Jessica, and what led up to creating the industries?
Yeah. Okay. Well, going way back,
Yeah.
I was in a different kind of insurance field for close to 20 years,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay.
I was in title insurance for
Okay.
almost 20 years. It's what kind of started my career. And I call it the trenches for
Yeah.
about 15 of the years, meaning I did pretty much everything in title insurance, everything.
Okay.
Closing, high level assisting. I actually researched properties at the county. I could draw out legal descriptions, which are quite complex
Yep.
because I reside in Wisconsin and I worked a lot in Wisconsin as well. It's really a mess over here, real estate wise. Um, so I kind of was hitting this wall around the 15-year mark, and I had a real passion for health and wellness and working with people. So kind of side gigged a little bit of coaching for like health stuff. I'm really into food and nutrition, and I thought, well, that's what I'm probably going to end up doing because I was getting a little bit burnt out
Okay.
in the pace of
Yeah.
title insurance. Fascinating industry, but 15 years. And I was thinking about leaving it all together. And I just was trying to figure it out. And a good friend of mine who owns a title insurance company had been asking me for many years to come and work for her. And I always declined because A, we were friends, and B, I knew she was a tough gal to work for. She had high standards. And she just happened to knock on the door right at the right time as I was hitting the wall, and I declined her offer again. And she put in front of me the opportunity to come to her company, which I think at the time, if I'm remembering right, had 7 locations. And she said, "No, I don't want you to work as a closer or any of this. I want you to come and build a training and communications
Mm.
department for me." And I thought, well, that's silly. I've never done that before. But what I
Yeah.
had done is everything in this industry.
Yeah.
So she had 7 offices throughout the Twin Cities metro area. And she wanted them to be more congruent, meaning that she wanted the feel from one office to be the same as to another. And what happens, what I know now, is that in the world of business, everybody ends up on their own island and
Yep.
everybody develops their own way. She did not want that. She wanted it to be very uniform because she had a particular brand and high expectations. So, anyways, I took a leap of faith and I thought, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but I'm going to go for it because it felt right. And it turns out that my love for helping people and my knowledge in the industry was a perfect fit. And so during my time there, I built her training and communications department. I helped roll over payroll systems and got involved with a lot of the hiring, the firing, the team dynamics. But this is where I was introduced to Acumax, the tool that I use now. And I started getting inklings during this building process that small business needed what I did. And not everybody could afford to bring somebody on salary to do this. And so those little seeds got planted. And ironically, towards the end of 2018, I felt like I had built a system that was self-sustaining through her company. And it just felt like the right time to exit. And so her and I talked, and she was very excited about me doing this. And we're still great friends. And that's when I went out on my own. So my last day with her was January 1st of 2019. I freelanced for a while and then I LLC'd in 2019.
Wow. And
Yeah.
as we were just discussing a little bit, before we jumped on, you've just went past your 5-year mark.
Yeah.
So if you would, so 5 years starting your own new niche business, talk a little bit about what that journey has been over 5 years.
Scary, hard,
Yeah.
confusing. I don't know. There's a lot of different words I could probably plop right into that sentence. I felt very pulled to do this. So what was very hard about it, though, is I felt pulled to do something that I couldn't define. I knew what I brought to the table. I knew what I was capable of doing. I had this amazing product in this company that's like, yes, use our product. Let's work together. They trained me. They knew what I was capable of. But how do you build it? That was the hard part. And, it was these first steps of go buy a brand new laptop. Oh, you need a website. Figure that out. It was taking these steps and just kind of putting all your faith into it. And then, I launched in 2019, and then shortly after, a global situation shut down most of the clientele that I was aiming to serve. And so that changed everything again, but it turned my focus to individuals. And so the journey has been very interesting, full of heart, full of awesome. And I can say, though, that it gave me a very different perspective when I help my own clients, especially ones that are newer in the business, or maybe they're older and they're having to change. I fully understand how difficult it is.
By the way, your website, which is make sure I get it right, wiredtobe.com, is fantastic.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Lots of pictures of you on there. Very, very different. I mean, this must have been fun. What a photo shoot.
I had a blast. Yes.
But it's very good. So check that out, wiredtobe.com. Very descriptive on what you do. So let's get into that. Talk about all the offerings that you have.
Yeah. So currently there are some fun things in the works, but I'm not going to go too deep on that yet. So currently right now I do work with individuals. So I work with individuals in different ways. Sometimes they're entrepreneurs. Sometimes they're just executive level and they need a little bit of help. So when I work with individuals, I utilize the tool that I bring to the table. I like to get to know you on a very intimate level, and that is your brain. I get to know your brain. And so I'm able to help people where they're at. So that's one of the services that I offer. When I work with individuals that are going through a career change, sometimes it's a life change, I utilize the assessment. They get a consult and I let them run the show from there. If they want more consults, I'm here. Individuals are unique. Sometimes they need to take it in, they need to wait, they come back, and sometimes we work together longer term. When it comes to executive level coaching, I believe that time and patience are some of the harder parts for executives and business owners. And so I make them put a little investment into that because things don't happen overnight. So again, everything comes down to their assessment. So I'm like, okay, I know who you are. Now let's work on where you want to go and what you're struggling with from your own unique character. So those are two of the ways I work with individuals. Then most of my clients are the smaller business section, which small business is 500 employees or less. I would say I hit that broad range overall. And they're usually in contract with me for a minimum of 6 months. Most of them are with me well over a year, some a couple of years. So when I work with a small business, it's all about what they're struggling with. Some of them find me because they've had a harder time hiring. They've had a lot of turnover. They can't figure out what's quite broken and how to fix it. And I come in and I can give them a lot of4clarity. And then we can start working on things where the problems actually live. And then we see tremendous results. But it does take time. We're usually turning around the Titanic. So those are the three main ways.
Okay. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's say you're coming to work with me and you give me the we go through the assessment, which I understand is very quick, right? We'll talk a little bit about the assessment and how it works and kind of the things that it measures.
Yeah. So the assessment's really cool. This is called Acumax. That is the name, Acumax Index. And this assessment is labeled or classified as a personality assessment. There are hundreds of personality assessments on the market. But this one is unique because it doesn't really measure how you are that day, right? A lot of these assessments, it's more of a snapshot of like how you are that day. This goes a little deeper and it's really looking at the neurological wiring that you have. So the way that, to back up, the way that your neurological wiring works is this. When you're born, there are thousands of neural pathways that are developed. This happens at birth. And then right around 1 to 2 years of age, we start to see it in people. This also correlates with your terrible twos. So if you've ever had that toddler in your life and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like overnight, they develop into these little people that have opinions and thoughts. So that is when we start to see it show up. And then it spends the next several years maturing to about the age of 15 or 16, and it remains static for the rest of your life. So that's what's fascinating about neural wiring. And that's what we're looking at. The assessment takes about 5 minutes, maybe less, depending on the person. And most people have no clue what they're doing. And that's why it works so well. The data is so raw. And so what it can tell me afterwards, what we're really looking at is idea flow, communication, pressure acceptance or your patience, your certainty, detail, and your decision making. And these 5 main drives can tell us a whole lot about somebody, what motivates them, leadership styles, how they'll sell, how they'll manage people, where their confidence comes from, and then, what their struggles are going to be. And so we measure that, but we also then measure how does their environment impact that. That is a snapshot in time. So we can help employers and people figure out what's not working right now and can we change it.
So yeah, but back to like if I take the assessment as the leader of our organization, that would I would imagine give me great insight into, oh well, maybe I need to adjust this if this isn't a strong area. What might be an example of maybe a real life example of you provided as a leader and provided insight back to that business owner?
Yeah, so most of the business owners that I work with have similarities. And they have similarities because they had to be pretty bold in going out and starting a business. So a lot of them have what I call is high autonomy. So high autonomy means they like to act on their own ideas. It's a proactive drive. They like to act on their own ideas. And if somebody challenges them, it's actually motivating for them. So if somebody says, no, I don't think you can do that, they will double down and they will do it.
Yeah.
More than once usually. So this is a great drive that I work with a lot. Now, while there's all the benefits of it, I get my self-confidence from my own ideas. I'm proactive. I can stand up for myself. I can advocate. The downside of that as a leader is sometimes you're not collaborative enough. Sometimes delegation becomes your weapon, right? Where people don't get to put input in, or you can come off as a bit intimidating. So then the work doesn't become shutting off your high autonomy. It becomes learning how to temper it by realizing it's there. So you can learn to pick up your own nuances and better build trust with your team by sometimes bending over to this team-driven category and allowing your high autonomy to step back. But it's hard to do that unless you know it's there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We don't turn it off. We adjust.
And then you have to, I'd imagine, then you just really have to be intentional about it. So if you're geared with that information, you helpful, and maybe might you might be able to better pay attention to, oh, I need to just, I need to take a step back from this and let them make a
Yes.
decision. Or
Yes. It's a journey. And the way I describe it to my clients is I don't ever expect people to be able to do this overnight. This is why the time is so important. But the first step is always self-awareness. It is very hard to change something we don't see. And so the first step is self-awareness. The next step is self-realization. Can I use the tool I have? Can I use it to do a better job? Can I use it to make better outcomes? But then the third one is empowerment. And that's, do I know it? Can I use it? Can I change it? But you have to have the self-awareness first.
so, and I want to touch on something that you said, that essentially um, after the age of 15,
Mm-hmm.
that wiring stays static. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't change, right? How do those differ?
Yeah, so that is a really good question. Who we are at our core will be the same. And so that means that, if you have that higher autonomy, chances are you've always exhibited that throughout your life. However, when your environment changes and you're put into a situation where that is completely squished down and squished down and squished down, you will do something called adjust. Right? So you will adjust out of your natural state, either because your environment requires that for survival, or you like the outcome of doing it. So one is survival, one is empowerment. So we walk around adjusting all the time. But if it comes down to the core of who we are, it's just like having a rubber binder. We can stretch it all over here, but when we let it go and we let it lie, it goes back to that original shape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that is. And that's why people are like, well, I've changed. Well, you've matured, because there's healthy and unhealthy sides.
Yeah.
But you also adjust to your environment.
Yeah. Because I feel like I've changed a lot, and just with age, and just a little more settled, a little more, what's really important. What I maybe got worked up about 8 to 10 years ago, I'm just not that worked up about anymore. Maybe have a little more empathy. I'm definitely softer.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but I would agree. So yeah, people I think definitely do change, but yeah, the wiring, you're still the same.
Yeah, the motivators and your strengths and the areas that you struggle. This is why we're so beyond personality with this, because I can look at two people that look the same on paper, but one person might be on the healthy side of the traits, whereas another person might be on the unhealthy side. Yeah.
So the reverse side, so we've done that. We've done the assessment on myself, and how does it benefit to do then the assessment on the rest of my team members?
Yeah.
How can we utilize that information to better work together?
Yeah, this is the best part about my job. So when I work with teams, a lot of times they're already clients of mine, and then we run the whole team. Everybody gets this opportunity to know themselves, which it's all information they've told me, but the greater gift is in being able to know somebody else. Because when we can understand somebody else's communication style and maybe how it's different from our own, we stop using assumptions to guide us. We stop making it personal oftentimes. And in that there is an understanding of, oh, that's right. They think before they speak, or that's right. This person speaks to get clear. So they talk more. And we stop making it such a personal thing.
Yeah.
And then we can start using the gifts that each one of us has. So if we know that Sally is going to be excellent at planning because she's got the patience and the focus, but we know Dan is impatient and he's the driver, then we can use that to both create a plan, but make sure we move it along in a timely way. Instead of not seeing the world the same way, we actually can bring those two different views to help us accomplish a goal. So there's a lot of different examples of that. But most of the people I work with, actually all of them, I'm not even going to say most, when we get together as a team, there's a lot of laughing. There's a lot of, oh my gosh, I see you do that all the time. And people connect through just this deeper understanding, because there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no good, there's no bad. But we're able to instead show people where they're strong and help business owners align people with their natural strengths. So we're not asking fish to climb trees, so to speak.
Yeah. I've never had that visual before of fish climbing trees,
There
but
you
no.
go. There it is.
Let's talk about, you touched on it a little bit. How can we use that in the hiring process?
Yeah. So this whole system is designed to be comprehensive for a small business. So we reverse engineer it. And so if you, Brad, were hiring an assistant that had to wear a few different hats, they had to maybe manage your clients, they had to have high detail, etc. There is a scientific process to create that profile. What would this person need to look like objectively to not just be good at it, but to also be really satisfied doing it? And we create that profile. So we streamline your hiring process. It's a gatekeeper. Everybody who applies is responding to an ad that's written to psychometrically match the position that we created the profile for. So we're fishing with the right bait. They come in, and before we even engage in a conversation with them, they take that assessment. We want to make sure, A, they're invested, they're taking the time to take it. It's only a few minutes. B, we want to make sure they're at least a 60% match. Because statistically, by case study, if they're less than that, you only have about a 35% chance of retention. So it takes away some of the guesswork. We interview less people, but better people. So fewer interviews to get better results. Saves time and gives you more guarantee.
I love what you said there about the potential. Are they going to be happy and enjoy their role?
Right.
Because oftentimes they don't know either. It's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're trying to figure out, are they going to be a good fit? And that's actually some data that is saying they're going to be a good fit for this role. They might be happy. Their traits fit this role.
Exactly.
That's great. Are there certain traits that you see? Oh yeah, we got to stay away from this one. This is not a good option.
Oh, yeah, it depends. It depends on, what we're hiring for, because there's really no good or bad traits. But, an example I would give you is that I wouldn't hire, the role that I just explained, which is really dynamic. You might have a lot of responsibilities you're juggling. The phone might be ringing a lot, but you have to be really high detail. There's a certain amount of pressure. I wouldn't want to bring somebody in who is crushed by pressure, right? I wouldn't want to bring somebody in who perceives pressure differently. I wouldn't want to bring somebody in who's more of a visionary and less high detail, because they might really struggle, and then they take that on as something bad about them. So it's very situational. I've hired personalities that are more operational. They're super drivers. They're perfectionists. They have high autonomy. They like things their way. They move fast. They're curt. They're to the point. They're staccato, and they do amazing as directors of operations and positions like that. But I've hired teachers too. And they're much different. So it's all about knowing what goes where.
Yeah. Does that help, having the assessments from both sides? So if you have one of me as the owner, and then also, are these two going to mesh together? Yep. I guess that depends on the role, right? I mean,
yes. Yeah. So it's all kind of this hodgepodge of factors. So I'm always considering who the direct reports are, who the leader is, because it almost comes down to a value system, right? So if you, for instance, one of the most important drives I work with is the patient's drive. That's the pressure drive. It's one of the most important across the world. And I've worked with people across the world. So if you as a business owner naturally have lower patience, which is rare, by the way, it's not common. Most owners have it. But if you have lower patience, you will struggle more with the general population because they have higher patience. They move a little slower. They're more deliberate decision makers. They just don't have the same urgency, it feels like, to low patience people. And so the conundrum is when you hire, the majority of your interviews are going to be with high patience people, and you might get along and you hire them, and then you're like, why can't you just do a little more? Right. And they're over there going, why do you always put pressure on me? So I always have to make sure that either it's disclosed, because if it's going to be high patience versus low, both sides need to understand how that's going to look and feel. But more so, I try to avoid certain things like that as well, because it won't feel as good to either side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit to your more of your coaching and consulting offerings.
Yeah.
When you enter a business, what are some of the where do you start? What's the process of where you go about to help improve that business, help scale that business?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about
So yeah, so I'm a big person that wants to look at the foundation of everything first. And so when I come in, if that person or business is already engaged with me, they're like, yep, I know I want to work with you. I want to get started. The first thing we do is the assessment. And that is, I'm not going to come in and guess, right? And that's what I like. I can see with my eyes, I can hear, I can sense things, but I've been wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets me apart in some different ways than other consultants that come in. So I get a lay of the land. I want to know who you are as a leader, and I want to get a feel for your team. So when I do that, after I get all that data, that's when I'm sitting down with business owners and we're just looking at it all. And then we're game planning based on that. So if the objective is maybe we need to hire, right? Some people don't know. I don't know if I need to move people around or if I actually need to hire. Then we're looking at, well, why is the system not working, or are we really at capacity, right? So we're game planning according to what that information brings.
Yeah. Does that assessment, you go in and look at something like that and you see some problem areas, and you perform that of everyone, on a team, and can the assessment, well, it's not going to, make a decision alone, but can you look at that assessment and say, well, he probably is not going to be able to do that based on the person that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then does that lead to, you're going to have a difficult conversation?
Yeah, this is another really good question. So I am not the angel of death. That's what I say. I'm not the angel of death. I obviously know what's happening, but it's not my job
Right.
to do anything. So it's kind of like taking the Hippocratic oath, right? Like do no harm first, right? So I come in and I can see all the data and we can talk about where things may not be working. And sometimes there's potential to adjust things, move people around, but I always believe in coaching to it first, giving people the opportunity. And sometimes that really works. And then there are times, honestly, that I know what's going to come and I let it work itself out. And it always works out in the best interest of everyone. But I've been right many times, uncomfortably right.
Right. But you're working off of data. You're working off of scientific data and analyzing. That's what, consulting is. Who would you say your target client is? Who do you really like to work with?
Yep. I work best with people who would say they have a very heart-centered business. They are interested in elevating their business through their greatest asset, and that's their people. They understand how important those people are and how important it is that they, for the most part, enjoy and are good at what they do. So I don't work well with business owners that have profits and all those other like processes beyond their people, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Their culture typically is not going to be improved. So businesses that are culture focused, heart centered, they know the power of the people they have and they want to grow it through that means, they are perfect for me.
Yeah. Do you run into many that are reluctant to take an assessment? I want to work with you, but I don't want to be hooked up to that thing.
Yeah, not really. I
Okay.
think that I've worked with companies that have people inside of them that would say that have said that. And they're typically people that aren't conducive to the culture. I'll be honest. If they're like, nope, I'm not interested in that, they're usually people that are not helping the business for that reason. But overall, I think that is exactly what draws people in, is that there's no guesswork here. I'm going to give you raw data and it's all to your benefit. And so I try my best to make sure they know there's nothing bad here. This is all good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been great information. Um, if people would like to reach out to you and find, maybe they want to work with you, maybe they want to find out more information about the Acumax
Yeah.
assessment, what's the best way to get in touch?
So the quickest way is always right through my website.
Okay.
So you can go to the contact page, so wiredtv.com/contact, and you can reach out to me right there, and you can even give me some information. It's a little bit more straightforward because, you're not like emailing me directly, but that is a really quick way.
Okay.
I also have a tab on my website that is dedicated to Acumax, so they can go in there, learn a little bit more about that. And then they always can reach me via email at jessica@wiredtobe.com.
Okay, and I'll include all that in the show notes. And like I said, your website's fantastic.
Thank you.
I will be reaching out to you to do this for myself and my team and my wife, because I think that would help out there too.
Yeah, I love it.
Which is really, how often do you do that on perform this on couple? Because it's got to help, right? I mean,
Yeah, I do it all the time. All the time. How do you not want to know that? I think when I work with business owners, small business owners typically are really involved with their spouses in their business. And it's just part of the side effect. But I've worked with couples. I've helped couples just have like a fun experience.
Right.
And I've helped them find nannies that fit best for them. And I've just done all sorts of stuff because it bleeds into it. It's very close to getting into therapy, very close, but it's so much fun.
Wouldn't it give you better information? Like, I'm sure we all have something about our significant other that just kind of drives us nuts. And it's like, why do you, it's so different from how we see things. Maybe that gives us, enlightens a little bit like, oh, well, she sees green when I see blue. So
yes, we marry our opposites, Brad. So it's always a fascinating conversation. But yes, I do play with that too, because why not? I just want to help people bridge the gaps between our own complexities. So,
well, thank you again for your time. This has been very enlightening for me. I think you would be a great benefit to those in our industry for a number of those areas, hiring especially. And then working with your team. I think it's just, I think it's something that could be a huge tool for us, really any business owner. So everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week.